we're live. Hey, what's going on, everybody? You're hanging out with Comic Books from Coast to Coast. I'm Joe Leonardo. I'm over here on the West Coast with all the sunshine and fun. I'm hanging out with my friend Alexander Turbin. He's on the East Coast over there in Maine with all the fog and gloom and Stephen King monsters. And we're hanging out today with one of our favorite comic book monsters, the Max, and I guess maybe some Sandman stuff because we're celebrating the life and career of Sam Kieth. What's going on, Alex?
Oh, not much. Like you said, it's gloomy here, snowy. But it's kind of like I know you don't have this kind of feeling when you've lived in California your whole life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. In Maine, like the first snow or the first couple snows, the first week or snow or whatever, you're like, "Oh, this is awesome. It's so beautiful. It's so nice." And then, after a month of it, you're like, "This sucks. I don't want to snow blow anymore. I don't want to dig my car out anymore. This
I
blows."
bet.
But then at the end, like now, towards the end of March or whatever, it's like, oh, it's turning to spring. So even though it's kind of it's snowing and it's crappy out, it's still like this is like one of the last snows that we'll get. So it's kind of like the beginning of a new time. So it's kind of okay.
Well, yeah, don't you guys get like don't you guys get those like real kind of like explosive autumns and falls and that kind of thing
Yeah,
over
yeah,
there?
yeah. Oh yeah, we get the peepers and the
Like all the beautiful
oranges and
trees and
yellows.
everything changes color at the same time and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff, you know?
yeah, yeah. It's pretty nice. I mean, I bitch about the weather in Maine all the time, but it's pretty awesome.
Whenever I
So,
think about like places like that, I think of like what is it, Chippewa Falls or whatever, which is where Calvin and Hobbes takes place or whatever, you know,
oh,
like
oh
Calvin.
yeah, 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 because they're always playing in the leaves and stuff.
And he grew up out there, you know. I mean, that's where
Yeah,
Bill
yeah,
Watterson lives or lived or
yeah,
whatever when he was, you know,
yeah,
a
yeah,
younger
yeah. We
man.
we should go
So
over some
like,
Bill Watterson. That would be cool.
I always
Some.
like imagine it very like, you know, like rustic and beautiful and whatever, you know what I mean? Like lots
Oh,
of
it is.
creeks and trees and it's everything's little creeks and little
Yeah,
meadows and that kind of stuff.
yeah, yeah. It
I mean,
definitely is.
the world is like that everywhere, you know. I mean,
It
honestly,
is.
that's what
It
the
is.
world is made of. But
It is.
every place has its local beauty and stuff. Like out here where I live, it's a lot like the Shire, you know.
Yeah,
Like it
yeah,
looks like the Shire, you know. I mean, it's a lot of little green hills and
yeah,
empty, big rolling meadows without that many trees in them. You know what I mean? But just green grass for miles and miles and miles everywhere.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's that's cool. That's awesome. So let's talk
It's
about Sam
beautiful in
Kieth.
some years, you know. Yeah, poor Sam Keith. Like that.
Yeah,
Hearing about his death this weekend was really a little bit of a shock considering how young he went.
yeah, yeah.
First of all.
And did you read about how he died with
Well, I
his?
just I glanced at it. It's not like I
Yeah,
delved
yeah,
into what was going on with this man's life. But
yeah.
like there's like a dash of confusion with how much like he seems to have, died without much money and you know what I mean, and been living kind of like poorly or whatever, it seemed like, from everything
Well,
I
he
read
had
recently.
he had like a his body was like a dementia kind of thing, where his is almost like an MS, multiple sclerosis kind of thing, where his
Yeah, I said it was
body
like
was
body
like, yeah.
dysmorphia or something.
It's like I think as like he couldn't control his body and stuff. So you can only imagine. Um, he's an artist. His probably his hands are shaking or he can't move his hands or whatever, and he wants to draw. Can you just imagine that torture? It's just be it'd be horrible. It would be
My
horrible.
lines are getting pretty shaky these days as well, so I feel
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I always think about Charles Schultz and his last couple of years in Peanuts, and he just his lines are crazy shaky. So
Yeah,
yeah,
but those last stories are still good, and those last books are still good. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, yeah, but yeah, I mean Sam Keith is he was awesome. He was a treasure. We also lost Chuck Norris. I don't think you really said much about Chuck Norris. Were you not a big
I'm
Chuck
the guy
Norris
that put
fan?
up the I'm the guy that put up the Chuck Norris action jeans ad over there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you are a Chuck Norris fan?
Well, who didn't love Chuck Norris? I mean, everybody
Yeah,
loved
that's
Chuck
what I say.
Norris. You know what I
How could you
mean?
not love Chuck Norris? He's
It's
like
not like
everybody loves
I
Chuck
don't have
Norris.
posters of him in my room
Right,
or anything.
right.
You know what I mean? I didn't when I was a
But you
kid
might
either.
have when
But
you were little.
you know, yeah, I was a Schwarzenegger, Stallone guy. He
Yeah,
was like
yeah,
the third tier of that. You know, he was like the bronze
yeah,
medal for that stuff. You know what I mean? Like Schwarzenegger being, and freaking Stallone sort of battling it out for who had the gold, and it would be like it could be either one of them at any time. You know what I mean? It would be like
yeah,
Schwarzenegger would be the gold standard for a minute, and then Stallone would pop up, and then he'd be the gold standard for a minute. But that
yeah,
with the force of one, he was always kind of like the bronze medal guy there at the bottom of the tier. It was like no one was like, if anyone was like, hey, should we go see First Blood Part 2 or Commando or Missing in Action? Like no one's gonna go Missing in Action. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
everybody's
yeah.
either gonna
But
go to the First Blood Part 2 or Commando.
yeah, yeah. But without those early Chuck Norris movies, there may never have been a Commando. Like he was a trailblazer in the action movie genre for
Well,
sure.
I mean, he was just doing, what everybody was doing. I mean, he's no more of a trailblazer than Sonny Chiba or freaking, or
Yeah, they
Bruce
were
Lee or,
trailblazers. They were trail.
you know.
Yeah, Bruce Lee, trailblazer,
Well, I'm
definitely.
just saying, like, he's no more of a trailblazer than any of those guys. But yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, like, they definitely, were the first guys to do it and the first dudes to, what I mean, like, bring it into, everybody's living rooms and make it like, because when I was a little kid in the '70s, kung fu guys were, a little bit like superheroes or whatever. You were just
yeah,
like,
yeah,
because that just stuff popped out of nowhere and seemed kind of magical. You know what I mean? This sort of whatever body, you know, art. I don't know. They call martial arts, but it's it's like a warrior tradition of discipline or whatever that lets you, you know what I mean, like achieve a kind of body perfection. And what little 10
yeah,
year old kid getting beat up by bullies doesn't want something like that for himself or whatever.
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I know. So yeah, I'm looking at Sandman because he did the first 10 issues, I think. Yeah, 10 issues of
That's awesome because like I have all those too,
Sandman.
but I didn't want to go looking for them, and I have like the first 30 issues of the Max. So between
And I
those two,
mean, Sandman is one of my favorite comics of all time. It's maybe top four. It's in the top five. So
think so.
oh yeah, definitely. The writing is just amazing. Uh, so to be affiliated with it is, one of the greatest things that I think he possibly could have done. I mean,
Did you
I know that he left it because he was like, I'm in the wrong band. And I think he really just wanted to do some superhero stuff. And I can totally understand that because as much as I loved funk and all of the stuff people were doing there, I was in the wrong band there. And even though I loved it. So I totally understand it.
No, yeah, I mean, like people just need to do what they need to do. You know, what I mean, and you feel comfortable doing one thing or another. Like even like you could draw anything, but you always are going to have a preference of the kind of stuff you want to do. That's kind of
Yeah.
when I was looking at the Max. Just because I know it's made up of everything that he thought was cool or whatever. It's like him expressing all his own personal ideas or whatever. So the Max is
Yeah.
kind of special or whatever. I'm curious. Did you like the Sandman show?
I love the Sandman TV show. It's obviously not as good as the comics, but yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great,
I tried
fantastic.
to get into it. I think I watched most of the first season, and I think I like started the second season, but like, man, there's some sort of disconnection that takes place like a lot when they turn something into a physical property. You know what I mean? And it can be
Yeah,
kind of hard
yeah,
to capture it.
often you're right. I think his best work is actually this, though. I think it's this stuff, the
Wolverine.
Marvel Comics presents. I don't
Well,
think that's in there.
I'll have to say I think it's probably the Max, but he's an insanely talented artist, and like, when you
I
see
mean,
him
look at
doing his
that.
thing, what's that?
Look at this. It's just nuts. And maybe it's the fact that I like Wolverine, but I think his style, I think, is different. This Max, you're right. I think he loves it more. He's got more control, but he also doesn't have the like he's trying to become a Marvel artist and get paid the big bucks. So he's using some intricate line work, and he's really putting everything in every page. Whereas the Max, he's just he's experimenting, he's trying different things, and he's more in control of it, and he doesn't feel like he has to impress anybody. So I
Well,
kind of think he does.
I'll say there's like, there's the comfort of creating something that's yours, you know what I mean, which allows you a lot of like give and play. And then there's the discipline of creating something for Marvel. Now, I wouldn't say that art is better, right? But I do understand like like when you're given something to create that has parameters that says he is standing in this room. We are looking at it from this angle. You know what I mean? These characters are
Yeah,
dressed like this, and then you have to recreate that. Like there's a certain amount of like magic that takes place during that. You know what I mean? So he's like, it's him, and then the magic of being like, okay, like I am tasked to do these things, and this is my version of them, and they're fantastic. You know what I mean? And then there's like, the Max where it's like, this is what I want to create. I like
yeah,
this. I'm free to do whatever I want, so I can make it as wild or as tame as I like. That's a little different because you're creating the parameters yourself or whatever. So like you might get something that's a little bit more drastic or a little bit more magical, you know what I mean, having to work under someone else's regard, you know what I mean, because you're creating something under someone else's license or whatever. Like when you draw Wolverine, he's got to have all the Wolverineisms. He's got to have all that arm hair, and you know what I mean. He's
yeah,
got to have the
yeah,
crazy hairdo, and you got to have the big shiny claws, and you know what I mean. There's certain things that go into that character that everybody expects. So I mean, I can understand why maybe that work shines for you in a slightly better way than maybe some of his other stuff does or whatever. I think all of it's spectacular. I mean, I'll say
oh, it
this:
is.
like,
It is all
I don't
spectacular.
think I honestly, I think like his character and his human work in the Max is like a million times better than it is at DC or at Marvel, like any of his earlier stuff. I really feel like, just on my personal view of his work, like the characters and the body stuff in these, like, like they just look very, like, I don't know, man. He just like, like all, they still have the crazy cartoonism that his work always has.
Yeah, I guess that's the biggest thing for me is that yes, this stuff is cartoony, but it's a little bit less cartoony than the Max. So I think
Yeah,
I
I'm going
enjoyed.
to say it's the
I
other
just
way
like
for
this
me.
best
I think
personally.
like the characters look a little less cartoony. Like that Wolverine is, dude, like that's a very cartoon Wolverine. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like the
yeah,
proportions are outrageous, and and it's unusual to see a character like Wolverine like that, right?
right. But then he's also
Like I
got
said,
stuff in the
yeah,
Max
like
like this.
yes, like that's what I mean. Like now in the Max universe, like seeing a character like this that's has got an eraser like head or whatever,
Yeah,
you know what I
yeah,
mean? Like it feels more natural in this universe because we're seeing like a whole cavalcade of characters that are on that way. But in
yeah,
Marvel, I think for me personally, it's a little bit more shocking because I'm not used to Marvel looking like that. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like
yeah.
I'm
That's
not
what I
used to
liked about
seeing
it, though.
Wolverine exist in a universe like that. So for me personally, it feels a little off because it's almost too cartoon like, and it would be different if I was used to seeing Wolverine cast in that kind of light, but I really am not, you know what I mean? Normally he's drawn
Yeah,
very realistically by, highly detailed artists. So to see Sam Keith do his thing on that is a little shocking, not that it's not fantastic or that, you know what I mean? Like it's all
yeah.
like, come on. I mean, Sam Keith
I
is
hear
the
what you're
man.
saying.
It's a
I,
trick though, dude, because like, his work is so uniquely his own work, but at the same time, it reflects things like Frank Frazetta
yeah,
and Wally
yeah,
Wood. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
it's such a bizarre,
Bernie Wrightson.
combination of things. Bernie Wrightson, yes, dude, yes, thank you, and just fantastic artists. Like look at this like bondage piece up here on my page or whatever right on the
Yeah.
left. Like the figure is very cartoony, but at the same time, those are very real Frank Frazetta like proportions. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah,
Especially
yeah.
like back here and the meaty legs and the meaty, butt haunches or whatever, like, and even the blonde hair, even the way the bangs hang over the top and the tiny doll-like face, you know what I mean? Those are all big time like Frank Frazetta isms or whatever,
Yeah, 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 definitely. It's definitely awesome. It's too bad that in Sandman, I think some of the problem in Sandman was that he didn't ink his own stuff. I think
Stop
Sam
right there.
Kieth was
Stop right there. Go back to that page. Bring up that face down there on the bottom left. The bottom left.
bottom left.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
And
one.
now look at this one, dude. Like, and look at those two
Yeah,
faces. Look how Bernie Wright's and both of those faces are, dude. You
yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
yeah, definitely.
dude, like both those faces look like they could be like right out of like Swamp Thing or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 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 definitely. Yeah. Although I don't like this as much because he doesn't ink it himself. I think the Mike Dryberg um, kind of botches it up. Actually, I'd love to see the pencils or the
I
original
have,
pencils rather.
that's funny because like in this is the Max
Yeah.
1/2, which I
Yeah.
got from Wizard Comics, and I had it up on screen somewhere a moment ago, and I have the actual authenticity
Oh yeah, certification. Yeah, I think
certificate
I have
for it or
one.
whatever. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
here somewhere. I set it off to the side, but I have it here somewhere. But yeah, and then it's got this little fun piece in the back though, right here, where we get to see some
Shows his
of the
pencils and stuff.
pencils.
Yeah. He must be when he inks himself, does a lot of his own, like goes over and adds a lot of extra stuff when he's inking.
Oh yeah, you got to think that that's where all the like, he's not doing any of that. Those arm hairs as pencils, you know what I mean?
Right.
He's not
Yeah.
going in and
Yeah.
penciling those arm hairs or those belly hairs, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. That's all in the
that,
inking.
that's got to be all on the inking side of things, But this is a really nice looking, page layout right here, and
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. He does the blue pencil.
yeah, he's a butt drawer.
He's a
There's
butt
another
drawer.
super Frank Frazetta looking.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that. That's a Frazetta body right there.
Yeah, so I mean, all
This
those bodies got
female.
that Frazetta dynamic to it, big
Yeah.
time or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
But his stuff is so beautiful. Now, I'm I wonder like if like I don't know, I mean, like the disease he had, was it hereditary? Is it something that just developed from his old age? Is
I
it
don't know.
because of his health? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I
Like
don't know.
yeah, cause did he just like was he just like a guy who never exercised and just like is deteriorated, because like artists
I
suffer
don't
from
think
that,
that's
you
it.
know what I mean? Like when you're
Yeah.
an artist and you're just always at your table for hundreds of hours at a time
Yeah.
or whatever, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? And, because that's the thing about being an artist, man, is you just like you give up your life in inches to the table, like you're just always there, always working, and
Yeah. Getting that
so
bad
much of your
back.
time, yeah, like it takes so much time to do this stuff, it doesn't happen without hours and hours of effort, like so that's where your life goes slowly,
Yeah. Yeah.
but you got to maintain your health
I don't
too.
think it was that. I think it was he had some sort of degenerative disease, but I
Yeah,
don't know.
like I just thought everyone that worked on Marvel millionaire.
Yeah, he must have made some good money on the Max, especially since he had a
That's what
TV
I'm
show.
saying. Like, I don't see how he wasn't a millionaire, man. Like, how could you have
Although,
been doing, you know,
well, when you get a disease like that, if he's been battling that disease for, 5 or 10 years or so, that can drain all of your money. You know,
yeah, I suppose that's true.
doctors and stuff are not cheap. So,
Yeah, that's one of the things about like where I work or whatever is that they have like I have like Ultimate Blue Cross or whatever, you know what I mean?
yeah,
So like
yeah,
it's like, it's the highest level of insurance that they have out there and it's like it takes care of anything. Like this doesn't matter what it is, like, they pay for it, So just that alone makes it so worth it, because healthcare is so crazy expensive now.
yeah, yeah. It really is. It's and it's never going to get better. You know, the
Hey, just want to say
politicians,
hi to our friend. Hold on, I just want to say hi to Byron real fast.
yeah,
Byron's on the
yeah,
line and he's hanging out with us. Good to see you, Byron. We always love it when you hang out, and hope you're
yeah,
doing good with Brat Girl. And I hope you guys are going to get a copy to us pretty soon so that we can take a look at Brat Girl on the show and break it down for
yeah,
everybody.
yeah.
So
That'd be
fun to
awesome.
see you, Brian. Thanks for hanging out with us, dude.
Yeah, it was awesome because I did you see last week when we were talking and somebody comes into the chat and says something about we you don't have any viewers. What why are you who are you talking to? And grown men talking about comic books. What the heck? And then Byron said, "Hey, watch it."
Good for you, Brian. Thanks for sticking up for
Yeah,
us, buddy.
yeah.
We're talking to
He's
each
like,
other, man. You know what I mean? And anybody who
yeah,
watches the show after it's online, like,
yeah, yeah,
give me a break. And if you want to hang out and talk to us, we're here, man. And we love to
yeah.
talk comic books. And that's what we're doing. And it's, good way to spend a
I
Sunday
love those
morning, if you
guys.
ask me. Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love looking at comic books and having someone to talk to about them. Anybody else likes to listen to us talk about this stuff, then good for them. I mean, I like
yeah,
to put them on
yeah,
and listen to us jibber jabber. Like, look at this one right here. Like, this is a fun one because you're seeing, like, the iteration of in the comic as the story or whatever.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's I like the story better. I bet he lives in a vast secret headquarters with a gang of wild young assistants and a funny Chinese cook. And he has a deadly training room and a scientific lab. And nah, I can't. That's not real enough. And every night he arises from his own grave to fight crime with his maxi wing and a maxi cycle and a maxi belt. He's on no, all real heroes are tormented loners. He lives in the sewers and eats like stolen linguine or something like that.
Mhm.
And they're like, talking about this hero that's on the page or whatever here, and then like the reality of it, like down here, I mean, like super fun stuff. Sam Kieth was
Yeah,
always like playing around with those kind of like, ideas of and like hallucination and I mean, like the Max was about a lot of that stuff, like half of them he's like a homeless like monster, living in the sewers or like living in the streets and garbage, and the other half he's like a freaking roaming, warrior in some sort of like African like savannah freaking,
right. Yeah,
post-apocalyptic future or whatever, and it's like you never know which one of these realities is the real one, or if maybe they're both just as real, like the Max was like super existential.
check out this page. Look how many panels there are. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight.
Dude, he's a
Eight times
storyteller.
three. 24 panels on a page.
Have you ever
That's
done something
crazy.
like that?
No, no, I never want to. Never wanted to, never want to.
Dude, that's pretty badass. Like, I'm
It
not
is
saying I'm
badass.
going to do
I
that.
like it.
That's pretty cool. Because, like, for
This,
sometimes I mean, dude, like, it's good to challenge yourself with new things,
yeah,
first of all.
yeah, yeah, definitely. But there's also
Oh,
things that I like other people to see other people do and enjoy other people doing stuff. Here's an awesome piece. Um,
just
but
want to
not
take a real
something
moment.
that I would want to do myself.
Just want to take a quick moment to say we appreciate you, Byron. He's all, you got it,
Yeah,
Alex and Joe. I
yeah,
got your
we
back.
definitely do.
And he's like, I like you guys. I like to have you guys on the background while I'm drawing an inky. That's exactly what I do too, Byron. Like I put them on sometimes just to like have background noise and just listen to people talking about comics. No, but you're
Yeah,
100% right, Alex. Like, I mean, it's it's a real talent to be able to just like like draw without limitations. You know what I mean? It's like
yeah,
say like you and I or whatever, you get into that mold, like say what he did right there. That's a nice big page splash. Or like that one right there. That could be Alex Turbin page without too much work. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
it's
yeah,
4 or 5 big good panels. But when you really, like when you push yourself into doing something like that 24 page, 24 panel page that you just had up, like at that point you're really, what I mean? You're really walking a high wire act, and it's like you're like, no, I don't do this all the time or anything, and it's like maybe I feel like the pacing of this moment needs to be so tight and so linear that I want to do something like that. But when you do it and then you pull it off with so much success like he does, it shows that level of talent that, is inside that individual. Like, you know what I mean? That's an
Yeah.
explosive level of talent, I
Yeah.
want to say.
I think I think when somebody does something really different or weird in a comic book, I think that they've been thinking about it for months or for years that they're going to do something like that, and then they figure out, what kind of story they need or what kind of thing they want to do in order to do that. Like there's a thing that I've done a couple times. I did it in a Violent Thoughts, Violent Actions story that I did, where the panels are actually words, and I have the stuff going on inside the words as so you can read whatever it is as the story's going along. But that's just like something that I would think about, and I would like kind of like move it around in my head and figure out how the best way that I could do it. And I think that that is what he was doing. One of those, I assume that's like how it is on a splash page when if you're thinking about a splash page.
Yeah, he's just a consummate artist, man. He is a consummate artist. Um, Dude, I just popped open a random issue right now and it's blowing my brain apart just looking at it real fast right in front of the camera. Like in real time, my brain is being exploded. I'm gonna say this whole issue is all done like in impressionistic styles, and only the first
Yeah,
couple pages are done in his style, and everything after that is done in all the story and art is him too. It's all done in different impressionistic like comic book styles. You know what I mean? Like, so we open
yeah,
up on this first one right here, and it's like it's like children's stick figures, like a 5-year old or something. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Me and family or whatever, and it's all done with markers. And then we start moving over to this where it begins to get a little bit more advanced. You know what I mean? And we have what it looks more like the markings of a crazy 7th grader or something. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
on a or 4th
Like he's
grader or something like that.
learning how to draw.
Yeah, like just learning how to like doodle on the back of your thing. And then we're getting over here. Now we're getting into a more, like maybe some 1950s, 1940s looking kind of freaking, cartoony, real cartoony looking stuff. And
Yeah,
then it goes over here and becomes even more like impressionistic, like, as these like we see the face as it begins to like, advance, as the person learns more and more about what it means to draw a face or whatever, you know. And he's doing all this as he's telling the story, like all this
right.
is like being melded into the work, as it's going along. And then over here now, all of a sudden, we're at this sort of Bill Waters, sort of,
Yeah, yeah.
doesn't that look a little bit like Calvin and Hobbes kind of art
Looks
right there?
quite Calvin and Hobbes.
Yeah, and it just keeps
It
changing throughout,
it's
as each page goes on.
it's almost like he's torn between being a humorous cartoonist and being like a superhero artist.
Or that he just refuses to allow himself to be categorized as any one of them, and just feels
Yeah,
like he's
yeah,
all of them. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And wants to express all of that in his work.
yeah, yeah,
It's pretty amazing stuff, dude.
yeah, yeah. It's awesome.
And it just keeps changing throughout. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
here's the houses
and
from
he
freaking
does the colors, right?
yeah. No, wait, does he do the colors? I think Ollie Optics does the colors.
Steve Oliff does the colors. Who
Yeah,
did the
Steve
colors in
Olaf and
that
Ollie
issue?
Optics.
Yeah,
But the colors are amazing too, right? I mean, like it just
yeah.
all serves the story. And he's such an amazing cartoonist. Yeah, like I gotta think that like he must have run into some financial woes that drained him. I mean, look at this stuff, dude. Like, look at that.
Yeah, I think it was just the years of, and maybe like you said, maybe he didn't have insurance. Maybe he was like, he had a bunch of money. He's like, that'll take me, But then, a disease can take up a lot of money. You know?
Yeah, that's sad if that's what happened. Because like I can't imagine him not being a millionaire after doing the max, at
Yeah.
the 90s, right at the beginning of this. These things must have been even if they weren't selling millions, they had to be selling hundreds of thousands. You know what I mean?
Oh
Like,
yeah. Oh yeah.
even if
Yeah.
breaking like those Todd McFarlane, Rob Liefeld numbers, he had to still be like,
He was close.
Yeah, he had to be up
And the
there.
Max TV show was a hit. It
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah, a
like
TV show on
it,
MTV.
it
Like
right.
one.
It wasn't just like a show. It wasn't like a Wildcats TV show that nobody watched or whatever. A
Yeah,
lot of
or that
people
was
watched
done
it.
really cheaply or anything like that. The Max
Yeah,
had like really quality, high level animation on it for a TV thing. That's why they were only like 14 minutes long or whatever, because they were like these really high end MTV. Like, what was that? That was like part of like, it was called like Electric Eraser or something like that. Like, it was like the same place where Aeon Flux popped up.
yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think of it. Oh, what the heck was it?
I can't remember what it was called.
Something water or
Yeah, some had some kind of unique name or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah,
But it was a
yeah.
well done little piece of animation. And back in those days, that stuff didn't happen quite so easily.
I wonder where you can watch that now, if you can watch it
I
now.
bet you can find them on YouTube.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure you could.
'Cause I'd like to see him. I was
I
thinking
bet you
Tubi, but
will.
I don't know. I'll check Tubi and then
Nah, but
YouTube.
I mean, maybe, but I mean, for sure, you could find them on YouTube. I bet you anything
Yeah,
you pop, like probably the Aeon Fluxes too. You know what I mean? You could probably
yeah.
pop that thing in and go right into it. But I like let's see, like what is this? This is number 3, and over here we're at number 10. Which one do you think serves it better? Do you think like do you think the flat black paper or like the glossy black paper like serves it better?
I always like glossy better,
Yeah, I think the glossy
but
looks a little bit better too. The
I
flat
always
looks
like
pretty good
glossy.
though.
And I mean, it's glossy is just it brings out the colors. The color separation is always just so much better. Um, but Sam Keith didn't color that.
No,
That page right there isn't Sam Keith.
no, it says colors by Steve Olive and Ollie Optics. I
He
know. I
must
would
have.
have thought the same thing because this
Yeah,
looks like some like Bill Sienkiewicz stuff or something
yeah,
right here.
yeah.
Like
Like it's colored pencil or something like that. I
like
I bet
airbrush, yeah, and colored
I bet
pencil or
he
something.
I bet he oversaw the colors. I bet the colorist is like, well, what do you think for colors, and how should it be done? Because that's weird. That is
Yeah,
really
especially
weird.
when you consider about how like it's like from page to page, it's becoming drastically different. You know, what I mean, like
Yeah,
each one has a different medium, to the art or whatever. Friggin' like
Is that book falling apart?
yeah, well, the staple came out of it, and
Oh, that
it's
sucks.
a bummer too because this book hasn't been open for 40 years. It's not like this book is getting looked at. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Like it has been stored in the perfect condition, and this is just what we're getting. It's a little bit
Yeah.
bummer that these books weren't put together better.
Poor Image Publishing.
Yeah, poor Image Publishing. That's exactly what we're seeing right here.
Yeah,
But the pages do look gorgeous, and the color work on it
yeah,
is
they do.
beautiful.
Yeah,
And like even right here, like dude, like this is no joke. I mean, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages of letters, and they all have fan art on them. So
that's
it's not
cool.
like the
Yeah.
Max didn't have followers or people that were like super into
No,
it. You
no,
know what I
I'm
mean?
sure it did in the hundreds of thousands. I don't know when was number one. When did number one come out? Because
Let's take a look.
it was after the others, although not long after the others. 93. Yeah, so I mean, it was probably the second wave of Image books. Max
Yeah,
Pitt.
yeah,
Um,
probably before Pitt, even. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, probably before Pitt. So I mean, it's still in the heyday, although comics do crash around that period too. So it is really hard to say how many copies that they sold. Enough
And
for them to
even
make
like
a show.
you'd think like having being tied into something like the Sandman as well, right? Those things
Yeah,
sell
yeah.
every year.
Oh yeah,
It's not like
yeah,
Sandman sold and stopped selling. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Sandman,
yeah.
every generation discovers it and they buy the whole thing again. He's got to be getting crazy. You know what I mean?
Royalties.
Freaking royalties from Sandman.
I don't know. That might have that was probably when uh although it's Vertigo, although I don't think it started as Vertigo. So I don't know. It'd be a hard thing to say. I think
I
it
mean, they just
became
made that
Vertigo
thing
after
into a
like
I mean, he's got to be getting. You'd have thought they would have got a little bit of money when they turned it into a TV thing or whatever. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah. Plus, also these Marvel things, Marvel Comics Presents, they were selling really well. And
Yeah,
yeah,
dude. Like
he's
those.
a hot artist. He was making tons of money. You're
He's
right.
one of the all. Yeah, he's a super revered artist. Like, you know what I mean? Like in probably so many people's top 10.
Yeah, yeah.
Like so many people's top 10. I don't. Like I
Mm.
just to think about him dying in any kind of. I hope he was in no like. I hope he was in a beach villa. You know what I mean? Somewhere
Yeah,
like
yeah,
what I mean, like being taken care of
yeah.
like a
I
demigod.
know, I know.
Like, I don't
Yeah,
know,
it's
man.
like it's like I always say though. Once you hit 50, you're on borrowed time. I mean, everyone's on borrowed time anyway, but
That's funny.
once you hit 50, shit starts not working.
Yeah, be like Chuck Norris and just be like, there's a video of him like 3 days before he died because he had just had his 86th birthday. And he was
Yeah.
like, I don't age, I level up or whatever. Like, did a karate chop at the
Yeah,
camera or something.
yeah. I love that he embraced all that stuff. Like that somebody asked him about all of those memes and stuff, and he's like, "Well, they're not all wrong."
Oh, we'll miss that guy.
Yeah, yeah,
We'll miss Chuck and his action genes.
yeah. But
Yeah,
anyway, hey, yeah.
go ahead. Do you have a point you were going to make there?
We were originally, my idea originally for the show was to compare some superheroes, and because we're always talking about art and stories and stuff, and you're a DC guy, I'm a Marvel guy. Hey, do you is that the trade paperback, or is that
It is.
your?
I have all the original issues too,
Yeah,
but it's easier to bust out the trade paperback.
yeah, yeah, definitely. So I was kind of thinking that we could just, and actually, I was thinking of this for some reason because I woke up early yesterday, my damn dogs, and was watching the first Captain America movie, and I was thinking, hey, this is a really awesome movie. And then I was like, what does this compare to DC? And then it's just like a snowball where you're like thinking, oh, this character and that character, and what have they done and all of that stuff. So I kind of wanted for us to take a few weeks or something and maybe compare some characters and maybe you point out why you like the DC characters more than the Marvel character that we kind of compare and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's just a fun thing to think about. I was recently thinking about. I think sometimes like it's not even just like necessarily the character, but there might
Oh
be like
no.
idioms of the universe that you appreciate that make you appreciate that universe's ideas, versus the other universe or whatever. You know
Yeah.
what I
Oh
mean?
yeah. Yeah.
Because they embrace slightly different versions of the same things, but there's those little unique differences that make each one uniquely its own thing. Like some people absolutely love that Marvel Comics takes place
Yep.
in New
Get in
York
the real.
City.
In
you
Yep.
know
They don't have made up places. Yeah. We discussed this. That's why I like it.
like I like when you're a kid, when you grow up in places like that, you go, oh boy, like Superman or Spider-Man, he lives like a few neighborhoods down, over here or whatever. Like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
have that kind of thing when you grow up, or like I think Stanley I was talking about when he made the Avengers, like their base in Manhattan, like where it was
Yeah.
originally at, was
Yeah.
like it's some sort of government building that he walked by all the time that he just thought was
Oh
really
yeah.
interesting or whatever, and was just like, oh, if the Avengers were real, they would operate out of a place like this, and then they just did that,
Yeah.
in the story or whatever.
Yeah.
The Baxter Building, you know what I mean, like all that stuff. Like it's cool. There's a fun sort of it almost takes the mythology and adds like a teardrop of tangibleness to it. You know what I mean? Because you're like,
Yeah.
oh, we're writing about the Hulk and Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four and the Avengers and Thor and all these things, but they're happening in the same city that I live in. They're happening in New York, where I live or
Right.
whatever. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
when you're a kid, there's probably a real tangible magic to that. You're a kid living in New York City or whatever, and you're a black kid, and you pick up an issue of Luke Cage, you know what I mean, and Hero for Hire, and in 1983 or 1978 or something like that, and see it. His story is taking place on, and just like maybe a few neighborhoods down from where your grandma lives or something. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
yeah,
that's
yeah,
probably got to
yeah,
have a certain amount of magic to that kind of idea. So it might be
yeah,
something like that that makes you love Marvel, or you know what I mean. It could be
yeah,
anything, and you
yeah,
don't
yeah,
think about
definitely.
it. You just
Al Although I also think,
embrace it.
I think how much you like, a character, it depends on the writers, depends on the artists, depends on the stories. Like you take Superman and erase everything you know about Superman. Is he a character? You know, or is he a good character? Is he not a character at all? Like you have
It's
so
like,
many people that they just draw a character and they show it on Instagram or whatever, and it might look cool and stuff. But until you've actually got a story, you got a background, you got other artists that are working on it, then it's not really real,
yeah,
you
and
know?
dude, like you can mess with that idea and instantly like turn it into something bad or like not as good. Like I really don't like that James Gunn messed with the Superman mythology and was like, oh, his parents didn't send him
Right,
there to
right,
save the world; they sent him there to conquer it. He just decided to
right,
save it. It's like I understand what you're trying to do, but it's like, dude, you can't, you can't just mess around with the sacred mythology every time you want to tell a story. You know what I mean? You can't
right,
just like,
right.
the only way I could tell a story is to break everything that already exists. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's sad and dumb. Like,
Well, I love it. I think the biggest thing he
I
was
do
doing,
not.
in especially in the whole movie, is that he's trying to humanize, like Clark and Superman. He's a human, and like that's what he in his soul, in his heart and his soul. He's a human. He's not a Kryptonian, and I think that that's what he was trying to convey throughout the whole thing. I mean, that's quite
Yeah,
obvious. It's quite obvious
whatever.
where, at the beginning he's got the images of his family, and it's like the Kryptonians and stuff, and that makes him happy or whatever. But then at the end, it's the images of his earthly dad and his earthly mom and all of that stuff, and that is, that is the awesome part. That's what lifts him up. So I mean,
Wah,
there's
wah.
but I mean, we could talk about all this stuff, a million ways to Sunday. Uh, but it's like it's the stories and the character. Like, do you think that the characters are the stories that have been told?
I think in a version that's probably true. Oh, real quickly here, Byron says Liquid Television was the name of the show.
Liquid television. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
got some
Byron
Jim
agrees with
Gibbs.
you on
Okay,
the Superman.
yeah, I agree, Byron. I mean, I didn't hate it, but I definitely, yeah, we agree with that for sure.
All right.
And
So,
yeah,
all
but
right,
Clark is not learns
let's
to be human by being on Earth, and that's what you should try and portray. I agree with you 100%, Byron. Like the one of the things I really believe about that character, and one of the really important aspects of Superman to me as a character, is that he is a highly evolved thing. Like to me, like I've always felt like the Kryptonians are a higher branch of humanity that has had longer to evolve, and they had gotten rid of war and conflict and that kind of stuff on their planet
right,
almost completely. And when he comes to Earth and sees all the conflict and all the built up animosity that humans have for each other, one of the first things he goes about doing is trying to set an example of how like we could be
right,
better than that, like
right. But where does Superman get his morality from?
he gets it from freaking spending 18 years or like 12 years
He
with
gets it.
Jor-El and
He
in
no he no
silence
he does
in
not get
that
his
chamber.
he does not get his morality from Jor-El. He gets his morality from Ma and Pa Kent,
No,
and from
dude, no.
middle small town
He
America.
gets his
That's
human
where he gets his
humility.
morality
He gets
from.
his human humility from his mother and father. He gets, it's
Ma,
like
you
in the
mean Ma
film.
and
I
Pa
mean, like
Kent?
Richard Donner says it better than he does it the best. Like Richard Donner, and it's what's his name? Alexander Solkine, the guy who wrote The Godfather,
Yeah,
and it's his
yeah, I don't know.
writing, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And he goes, you've been showing off a bit today, haven't you, son? And he goes, oh, just that. He goes, I didn't mean to show off. You know the scene I'm talking about right now, right? in the film?
Yeah. No.
And he goes, I didn't mean to show off. It's the scene where he comes running up in front of the high school kids, and they go, Clark, how did you get here? And he goes, I
All
ran,
right.
and they drive off, and the dad goes, you've been showing off a bit, haven't you, son? And he goes, oh, that I didn't mean to show off. And he goes, yeah, and he goes, there's a bird showing off when it flies. He goes, somebody's showing off when it could do the things that it could do. And he goes, I could get the football. He goes, I could make a touchdown every single time, And his dad goes, oh, yeah, you could make a touchdown every time. And he goes, but, but you were sent here, son. He goes, you were sent here for a reason. And he goes, and I don't
Yeah.
know what that reason is. And we don't know what it is. He goes, but I do know that you were not sent here to score touchdowns,
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
he's telling him like, dude, like you are the ultimate version of us and you could do anything. You could take it all for yourself, but that's
Right.
not
But
why you were put
he's
here,
showing him he's showing him morality.
He's showing him
That is why
humility.
I didn't like the Snyder. No, wait, was it Snyder? The one with
Zack Snyder, yeah.
no, is he the one that did the one where his father tells him, "No, don't save me from this hurricane"?
Yes, Zack Snyder.
Yeah, that I hate that scene. Hate
No,
that
dude,
scene.
that's an amazing scene, and it's
Hate
it's
that.
exactly like it should
Hate
be. It's
that scene.
I love that scene. It's Clark listening to his dad because his dad knows best, and his
Yeah.
dad is still alive, and his dad is still his dad, and his dad is still his dad. You know what I mean? And that whole moment is very poignant because like Clark can do whatever he wants right there. Clark could rip that bridge apart. Clark could blow that freaking, he could blow that tornado away. You know what I
He
mean? He
should
could
have.
flatten
He
the
should have
sky
saved his
and blow
dad.
that tornado away. But that's not what his dad wanted. His dad was afraid for his son to be freaking, revealed to the freaking earth. And his dad would rather die than let Clark be freaking,
Yeah,
be
yeah.
vulnerable and
I'm
reveal himself.
definitely, I'm
Now,
definitely gonna. We're always
now,
gonna disagree with that.
I mean,
With
as a
certain
writer, he could have
things.
gone a lot of different ways. I mean, Clark could have moved faster than anybody could have saw and saved his
Yeah,
dad.
yeah, yeah,
He could have done a lot of things, but that's not what his dad asked him to do. And
yeah.
ultimately, what
But
Clark did is what his dad asked him to do, and that's the right thing, and that's the Clark thing.
I don't think that was the right thing at all. But anyway, that is just kind of what I'm talking about. What
Okay, we're just gonna touch
we
base.
talk about
Yeah,
because
Byron's over here, and he's
because
like,
yeah, Byron's with you. Yeah,
yeah,
Byron's on
but like,
Team
it's
Joe.
like, he's like,
But
he's like,
I want to compare characters from DC. Like, who would we compare Superman to? I think we would compare him
well,
to Thor.
it's okay. It's just like we got done talking about. Okay, like like the worlds are so different; they don't easily compare to each other. And I
No, they
think
don't.
those are the wonderful things about like cause say anybody can do that. You can always make comparisons, and you can always say like, oh, Batman and Daredevil are a lot alike, or
Well,
whatever it is.
I just want us to, have a little debate about the characters that we like better. I'm thinking iconicness as well as personal preference and who I enjoy more. I think it would just be fun to like go through who we like more, Superman or Thor.
I mean, like Superman, obviously. Thor's a
Well,
great character
obviously,
too, but you
Superman's your
know,
favorite. I'm going to say I like Thor better, but I think Superman is obviously more iconic. And so, am I going to say Superman's a better character? Yes.
they're
So
both great
we
characters.
would say, what's
I
that?
mean, I love Walt Simonson's Thor probably just as much as I love like Jerry Ordway Superman or like John Byrne Superman. Like they're both fantastic. Like they're very different things, and they both have very distinctive qualities that make them wonderful
Yeah.
things or whatever. And like I
Yeah.
said, I think sometimes like that it comes into the play of like the universe that they're taking place in. It all works together, you know what I mean? Like it's like a magical thing, and it all happened by accident because none of these things were put together as like whole pieces. Like DC wasn't like, oh, this is the DC universe and it consists of Batman, Superman, Aquaman, Wonder Woman. You know what I mean? Like it didn't
Right.
happen like that. They
No,
built it
it's
in
one at a
pieces.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Marvel, same way. They built it in pieces and then it just uniquely worked together like magic. Like the Thor and the Asgard aspect of it. You know what I mean? Like I love that. Like I love Thor and Asgard and Odin and all the gods, and I absolutely, love the visual of Asgard floating in space, with this, just like a giant island of the gods, just metaphorically floating in the universe with a rainbow bridge that connects it to other realities. Like, dude, that's a gorgeous visual when you're a fourth grader looking at this stuff. You know what I mean? Like, and it's
Yeah.
an amazing idea to think about in your brain. Like, like when I was a little kid, and we all played superheroes and stuff like that. Like, and when I was first learning about the DC mythology and didn't really quite understand it, you know what I mean? I was still trying to wrap my head around it. And it was like, I understood that there was Earth, right? And then there was Earth 2. And in my head, in my fourth grade brain, right? Like I always thought, like, how like when you could look up at the sky during the day and see the moon?
Yeah.
I always thought that was Earth 2, like in the
Yeah.
DC
Yeah.
universe. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And
That
I
makes
remember
sense.
thinking, like, when I was a little kid, I was like, that's a super fun idea, to think like there was two planet Earths sitting right next to each other, both of them full of superheroes. You know what I mean? Both having these fantastic adventures and bouncing off of each other. Like the way I saw it in my head was like Earth 1 had Justice League and Batman and Superman, and Earth 2 had like the Legion of Superheroes, and like Mr. Miracle, and like the new God characters, and you know what I mean, like,
Yeah.
and like it felt like Star Wars to me, almost like you know what I mean, like in that aspect, like say like just like I was talking about a moment ago, like how fun it is to dip when those mythologies dip into realities, right? When you're like, oh, like Hulk or whatever, Spider-Man's a character, but he had an adventure in the neighborhood right down from where I live. And me being a little kid and thinking like, oh, wouldn't that be amazing if when you looked up at the moon in the sky, it was actually another planet and there was other people there all living in other cities, having, lives just like ours, and we were like tied into it. Like these
Right.
ideas intrigued me and made me fascinated, and made me interested. Now that's not what DC actually is. It doesn't actually work like that, like I thought when I was a little kid. But just the idea of it, how it sparked my imagination and that kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
meaningful
Definitely.
to me.
Definitely.
And
All
stuff
right.
like that
So,
drew me in.
all right. So we did Superman and Thor, and we decided Superman is the better character. That's what I'm thinking. The better character.
Lobo or Wolverine. You know what I mean? Like Wolverine's the
Well,
better
well,
character.
well. Wait. Is that I want us to come up with good comparisons because you've got Batman. Who would we go? There's just so many places we could go. But you're right. Lobo versus Wolverine. That's a pretty good one.
That's
But
because like
but what
Lobo
about?
was made. I feel like Lobo, like like the modern iteration of Lobo was created as an answer to DC not having a Wolverine.
Yeah, yeah, you're probably right. You're probably right. Let's do closer ones. Let's do closer ones. So let's do Adam versus Ant-Man. Who's the better character? Because they are, you know, super close.
Those are both pretty cool, but I think maybe Ant-Man might be a little cooler than the Atom. But I mean, like,
I don't.
actually, I mean, like, I think the Atom might be a little cooler than Ant-Man, but Ant-Man's like, like the way he's presented is just like a little bit better than the Atom is, maybe. Like,
What's the Adam's real name?
I don't know off the top of my
I
head.
I don't know. I don't either. But we
I
know
couldn't give
Ant
you that.
Man's real name,
I
whether
don't know
it's
his name either. What is it?
Henry Pym,
Oh,
Hank
Hank
Pym.
Pym. Hank Pym.
Hank
You're
Pym,
right. Yeah.
yeah, is Ant
Henry
Man,
Pym. Yeah.
or Scott Lang is also Ant Man.
Right. Okay.
But
You're right. Yeah.
there's so many stories about Hank, Ant Man that I know, whereas I don't know. The only story that I remember of of the Atom is the one from Dark Knight Returns 2, where he's caught in that petri dish. Did you read that? Do you have that?
No, I've never read The Dark Knight
Yeah,
Returns
yeah.
Part
He's
Two.
like caught in a petri dish, and there's like monsters trying to kill him, and he's trying to escape, and eventually he does. And the monsters are really just amoeba or whatever, little microscopic creatures. But I don't know any good or any real stories about the atom.
Yeah, I mean, nothing pops up into my head either. It's not like he's like some super prolific that's had like a lot of meaningful adventures or whatever. I mean, I think a lot of the time these characters were just like, created as an answer to the other character or whatever.
Oh
Like they're
yeah,
like, oh,
definitely.
this guy's got they got a shrinking guy. We need to have a shrinking guy. They got a
Yeah,
mystic arts dude. We need to have a mystic arts dude. They got a superhero team. We need to make up a superhero team or whatever. Like, and I
yeah.
mean,
Doom
I'm
Patrol was
fine
an
with that.
answer to X-Men or X-Men,
Yeah,
whatever.
X Men was the answer to Doom Patrol or whatever, but X Men did
Yeah,
it better than Doom Patrol. Like I'm not
right.
afraid to say that. The X Men
Yeah,
is
yeah.
more interesting and better than Doom Patrol, even though Doom Patrol did it first. Like
Doom Patrol's pretty close though. I mean, I'm obviously going to say X-Men because they're my favorite of all time. Like my X-Men is your Superman for me. But that Doom Patrol TV series was amazing. Have you
it's a
watched
little
those?
wacky.
It's
I did
wacky. It's
watch
wacky as
some of
hell.
them.
It's wacky as hell, but I loved it.
Yeah,
And I love the Grant Morrison, run and all of that stuff. So it's not
yeah. I mean,
always
that's the great thing
storyline.
about comics is it just like say like the new Spider Man movie is coming out, and I was discussing with someone about how like like they're they were like, well, what is it going to be? And I'm like, well, they're slowly running out of Spider-Man stories to tell as films, right? And the reason why they are is because they keep going back and reiterating the same stories again and again in the comics. Like it's like, how many times are you going to tell? And it's like everybody does it. You know what I mean? It's not just
Yeah,
Marvel, like whether it's DC or whoever, it's Superman or Batman or whoever. I mean, they're doing that right now at DC with with the freaking it's not Ultimate, whatever their thing is, the new ones or whatever, with the
the
Savage
KO.
version of all well, yeah, but it's got a
Oh
name
no,
there.
yeah, absolute.
Yeah, absolute. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
With their absolute version of their characters, they're just telling the origins again, is all they're doing. They just changed the origins and made them more extreme and told them again, and that's fine. I mean, we all expect that.
Wait, wait,
But
wait, 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 wait. You're okay with absolute? Them changing into absolute, but not okay
well,
with
it's
James
its own
Gunn
thing. Like
changing
it doesn't
Superman?
change my Superman. It just adds another universe where there's a different Superman who's different. You know what I mean? Like I'm fine with that. Like I don't have a problem with that. What I'm saying is like when you don't keep doing stuff like KO. Like KO was good because it's a new thing. You know what I mean? It's like Marvel's or it's like DC finally doing a Secret Wars kind of thing or whatever. And I mean, they should do it too. If Marvel does a Secret War, why shouldn't DC do a Secret War? And it's just basically a battle royale with their characters. But what I'm saying is, just like you were talking about in like one of our recent shows, like they have to be trying new ideas. You have to be making up new villains. You have to
Yeah,
be making
yeah.
up new storylines and new events to take place in order to create media for these movies and films to happen. Otherwise, you just devolve into telling the same story again and again and again. And we were just discussing in like the Spider-Man universe, there really hasn't been a very recent storyline that's been very meaningful, where they weren't just recapping the story again. You know what I mean? Like what's the one Spider-Man story that hasn't been told in a film now? The Clone Saga?
The Craven Hunt. But I think there's a big reason why they didn't do that. I think same thing with Fantastic Four. I think they sold the movie and TV rights to other places, so they stopped trying as hard as they could.
That's always a big problem too.
You know?
Like I'm following a filmmaker who's trying to make the Dark Tower right now, and they're going to do it as like a couple of seasons of TV and like a couple of movies. And
Yeah.
it's the same guy who did he's done a couple of big movies or whatever. I think he's the guy who was tied into that The Long Walk that just happened. And then he also did
Oh yeah.
he did a couple of TV shows on Netflix. He did that Fall of the House of Usher and
Oh yeah. I love those.
yeah, he's really good. But he
Yeah.
was talking about how like because the Dark Tower appears in a lot of different Stephen King books, right? So like, even though like maybe the book is about something totally different, elements of the Dark Tower might appear in like say in a book like Insomnia or like in a book like what is it, something Moon's Lights Over Atlantis or whatever. Freaking like there's a lot of different books that have totally like nothing to do with the Dark Tower, but like one character from that book might appear in a Dark Tower story, or like later
Yeah.
on, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like one character from the Dark Tower might appear in a small portion of that book or something like that. And he was talking about how like he was finding himself in a situation where he couldn't get some of the characters that are supposed to be in the Dark Tower to like be in the movie or the films because that novel had been sold to a different production studio or whatever.
Yeah.
So now this one character that's really pinpoint important to this one scene and a later thing can't be in it because he's been sold to a different, production studio that's using it for this one thing or whatever. And he was saying like, so much of Stephen King's stuff has been chopped up and sold to so many different studios that he's really discovering it's quite difficult to piece all of something like the Dark Tower, which takes place over all of his books. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So I can see Marvel and DC having problems
surprised.
like that too.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm surprised they could do that Castle Rock TV show.
Yeah, where they just sold their stuff to so many different places, it's hard to get them all together in one thing or whatever. We need to have these 4 characters, but 2 of them are owned by a completely different subsidiary now.
The problem with comparing DC characters to Marvel characters, though, is eventually the DC characters, although, yeah, I guess you could compare lesser known characters. Like, who would you compare Spider-Man to in the DC universe?
There is no Spider-Man comparison in the DC universe.
I was thinking maybe Creeper.
No, hell no. Because you can't just do that. You can't just look at a comparison of ability and go, that's this character. Because it has to have like that level of permeation. You know what I mean? That level of like Spider-Man is probably Marvel's most important character. You know what I mean? Like he's like, he's like the first
Wolverine,
thing you think of,
Spider-Man.
No, Spider-Man. When kids go into, when your 3-year-old child goes into Target and wants a toy, it's going to be a Spider-Man or it's going to be a Batman. You know what I mean?
You're right.
So it's like you got to think about it in terms like that.
But Marvel has a lot of characters that DC doesn't have anything comparable to, like Captain America. Who would you compare?
That's what I'm
Captain
saying.
America
the closest, Captain America's close counterpart is Superman, but Superman's way overpowered. But they both share that same idiom as the great father of their universes. You know what I mean?
We're not talking power. Well, I'm not talking power. I'm just talking character. Who's the
like I said, they both share that spot as being the great grandfather of their universes. You know what I mean? Like,
so you wouldn't compare Thor to Superman. You'd compare Captain America to Superman.
Yeah, because you have to think about it like this. Okay, if Marvel Comics was a family and they were sitting down for Thanksgiving dinner, who sits at the head of that table?
Oh, it's Spider-Man.
No way, dude. Spider-Man was 30 years behind freaking Captain America. Captain America is the first Marvel character.
No, yeah, but like you said, when somebody thinks of Marvel, they think of Spider-Man.
No, dude, that's not what I'm saying. Okay. That's great that everybody likes Cousin Spider-Man at the dinner and that he's the most popular young guy there. What I said was who sits at the head of that table.
Yeah, you're probably right. It's Captain America.
Okay. Who sits at the head of your table, at Thanksgiving?
He's the leader. If Marvel characters all had a leader, it would be Captain America. He's the greatest leader.
He's the great grandfather of that universe. You know what I mean? Because he is the first hero, that really broke through. He shares that plateau with the Submariner and the Human Torch, but they didn't break through like he did. You know what I mean? He became America's version of that, and so he is the great grandfather of the Marvel universe. Same thing with the DC universe. If you put someone at the head of that table, it's always got to be Superman because he is their great grandfather.
Even though Batman's more popular.
Batman sits to the right, you know what I mean? Like to the right of that, chair, but he sits to the right.
Spider-Man would be on the right of Captain America.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't even put him on the right personally, but that's you, you know what I mean? I wouldn't put him there, but he's there, you know what I mean? Like if anyone sat to the right of Captain America at the, it would be the Fantastic Four. It'd be like Mr. Fantastic,
Think so?
Yeah. like in importance, like is their importance of the universe and how they affected it. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah,
Sure.
it's like just like you're saying, like first you have Superman, and then you have Batman and Wonder Woman, and then you have the Justice League, and it's the same thing. It's like first you know there's Captain America, and then we get the team idea with Fantastic Four, and then we get Thor and Iron Man and all those guys, and then they become the Avengers.
Who would you
But
compare Iron Man to in the DC universe?
no one that you compare him to, like I would compare Iron Man to Batman.
Huh.
But we're well over our hour at this point, bud. So maybe we ought
Yeah.
to like start thinking about wrapping this one up. And
Yeah.
this is going to be something that we're going to have to continue to bring up. Like maybe we'll bring this up with the
Definitely.
tail end of our discussions for a few shows. And I
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
want to take a
Definitely.
moment to stop and say thank you to our buddy Byron for sharing our show with us today. He's saying, please, for God's sakes, I hope they do a better version of the Dark Tower than that terrible film they made, which I couldn't agree with more. That movie is unwatchable.
I started
And
to watch it, and then I was like, remember, I texted you. I was like, should I watch this movie?
no way, it's so bad.
I think it's on Tubi now.
And just want to take a moment to say thank you for hanging out with us today, Brian. We always like
Yeah.
appreciate your presence on the show, and you are a continual like help with us and helping us get our details straight. And you're always wonderful access of information on the show, and we just appreciate when you come around and hang out with us every time, Byron. So it's good to see you, buddy. And
Definitely.
yeah, like this has been a fun one. We miss Sam Kieth. I hope his family is good. I hope they're sitting on a pile of money, and I hope they still are getting paid that money, for decades after he's gone, because
Yeah.
he's definitely the kind of artist, to where his work is just like so important and so meaningful to so many people in the world, and it deserves to be celebrated for forever.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Sam Keith's awesome, and when we lose one, it affects us all.
Yeah, and we have to just keep up the work, you know what I mean, and just keep up, doing our thing and making comics and just bleeding out the good ideas into the world. And we all sit at our table and freaking suffer for our stuff, and in that way we keep guys like Sam Keith, we keep the flame alive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're all passing that torch to one another, and we all do our best to hold the torch high and keep it burning while we hold it. And Sam Keith, he did his job, and we appreciate you, brother, and may you please rest in peace and know that the amazing work you did will be appreciated for all time.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. And Chuck Norris too.
And Chuck
We
Norris
lost
too.
too.
Yeah. Chuck Norris and his action genes. And
Yeah.
not to throw our stuff in there too, but Alexander Turbin and I are comic book creators, and together we're the creators of Entropy Alliance. Our homage to everything DC and everything cool about comic books in general. This is like DC and Marvel if it was like its own universe put together, you know what I mean? And just everything that we love about everything in comics. And at the end of Entropy Alliance, I'm going to put up a big old freaking list of creators that I want to dedicate it to, because there's just so many of them out there. Jerry Ordway, Sam Kieth, freaking Stan Lee, Carmine Infantino. I mean, there's so many people that inspired me to make this story. And when it's done, I'm definitely going to make sure that, there's a piece on here that explains how this is really an inspirational piece of work of just classic comic book storytelling and classic comic book adventure, and us just throwing our hand and in at it and just saying, like, you don't have to be a giant company to write Into the Universe, all the heroes get together to save all time and space story. You can just be a couple of doofy guys like me and Alex that work regular jobs and just do it on our side and just decide to do something big and fantastic. And that's what's great about comics, because it can be anything you dream it can be.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. All right. So
You want to show the latest random access before we get out of here? There we go.
I don't have it. Nope, this isn't the latest
Oh,
one.
that's
This
last month.
is
Okay.
last month, but I've got the latest one coming up shortly. So anyway,
Yeah,
we're
before we
done.
get out of here, definitely we got new pages of Entropy Alliance 3 coming out right now. You can see this stuff. It's looking really freaking gorgeous. I accidentally drew a Superion looking an awful lot like Frank Frazetta right here for some reason, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, he does. Were you watching Frank
And,
Frazetta? Something
No,
Frank
but I did
Frazetta.
have Frazetta stuff playing in the background, so that might be
Yeah,
what happened there.
yeah, yeah.
And so don't sleep on it, you guys. New pages of art, new comics. We're always working on new stuff. So new things will be coming soon from Access Comics, new great stuff coming from down the line. The website's going back up again here shortly. Alex is working hard on that. And we're going to always have cool new comics, cool new ideas, and fun new stuff to talk about. Hopefully nobody good dies between now and next week. And we can just keep talking about amazing new comics. And once again, rest in peace, Sam Kieth. This is Comic Books from Coast to Coast. If you enjoyed our show, please give Alex a like and a follow. Give it a thumbs up. If you got any comments for us, please throw it on there because we love to read our comics from our guys. Byron, once again, we thank you for coming on the show and hanging out with us. We love you, buddy. And before we get out of here, is there any last words you'd like to give, Alex?
Nope. Give them their marching orders.
You guys know what to do. You get out there, do your art, do your thing, make your music, keep on creating.